the story of Mr. Joe Brady at your practice.
I was like, yo, today let's try and catch everything one-handed. He was there hiding behind the bushes, recording the entire thing on a camcorder. I had no clue, zero clue.
What's the story going to Florida?
I just didn't want it to be the shadow of my parents.
The rest of this year, from a focus standpoint, looks like for you?
My goal's 100K on Instagram by the end of the year.
I'm going to make it the rest of this year's priority is to try and get a comment from Nick Saban and Joe Brady.
I had went on a visit to LSU. The entire time the vibe was like super relaxed, and you go up to this like room, you can tell that Nick Saban's presence is somewhere in here because it's like dead silent.
At what point did you realize this is the direction that you wanted to go in?
I had a reel go viral about
What's up, you guys? Welcome to another episode of the Elliott Caldwell Podcast on Successful DNA. A treat today, my friend Jonathan Odom. Jonathan, welcome to the pod.
I'm excited to be here. We've been trying to do this for a little minute.
I know, dude.
Schedules finally aligned, so here we are.
So I told you earlier, and I wasn't just hyping you up, one of my favorite follows lately on Instagram, dude, probably get this all the time, but you're freaking hilarious.
Dude, I've kind of just realized that more lately.
Yeah.
That I like from feedback, from a lot of the people that do follow me and that I see in the day-to-day, like these are hilarious, you know? And I guess the hardest thing that I've kind of been dealing with is just consistency, because that's basically what it is.
Yeah.
When you have that, the factor to make stuff go viral, it's just, you got to stay consistent in the algorithm. And that's kind of where I'm at right now.
Yeah. So my favorite video I've seen of you, I want to start with. I want you to, for the listeners that probably haven't seen the video or see you talk about it, if you don't mind, could you retell the story of Mr. Joe Brady at your practice?
Yeah. So if I'm not wrong, Joe Brady's now the head coach of the Bills, correct? So I was, give a little backstory. I was at Jesuit in Tampa, and where I played high school football. And I'd say probably the end of my sophomore year, I started getting a lot of recruiting attention, got my first offer from Vanderbilt. And then after, anybody who knows, you get your first offer, especially to SEC, the offers just start to roll in. And my dad really wanted me to kind of get all the recruiting done and be committed somewhere before my senior season.
Where did he go?
He went to Florida.
Okay.
And so,
Makes
side
sense.
note, I had ruled Florida out of my recruiting even after they offered me. We can get to that later another day. But so basically, fast forward, I had a bunch of offers, basically anywhere I wanted to go. I know, super humble, but I basically gone anywhere, and
But you were 6'5" and can play a little football.
I mean, it's like, it wasn't that hard of a recipe. I didn't do anything grandiose. I mean, I just was.
And your dad played in the NFL.
Yeah, I know that it was. I had the right recipe. All right, but I had decided. I narrowed it down. I think it was Alabama, LSU, Ohio State, Florida, and then Purdue. I think because I loved Jeff Brom because he was the head coach there at the time.
He's at Louisville now.
Yeah, he's a great offensive mind. But anyways, I had went on a visit to LSU, and I had silently committed to Coach O. Now, something I didn't mention, maybe I did, but in my meeting with Coach O, I didn't know this, but he did this pitch where he would pull his family portrait out and like his wife, his kids, and all this stuff, and he'd like see like, I'm gonna put your face right here on my family portrait. He cheated on his wife like 3 months after that. But anyway, but I was like, I didn't know, because I had started talking to some of my other buddies who went on the recruiting visit, and he did like the same exact thing to them. It was like his pitch. I was like, I'm gonna put your face right here, and you'd be part of my family. That's exactly how it went. But I loved LSU. There was a few red flags from my parents though, just because they, at the time, the Titans coach was a GA, which is kind of weird to not have like a named Titans coach, but I just loved LSU. I loved the atmosphere. Like when I went on my visits and stuff, I was like, I could see myself going here. So I silently committed. He was like, are you going to come? I was like, yeah, I'm going to come. I'm just not ready to release it. So I go back, we go spring football practice at my high school. And my dad was like one of my coaches, and for just backstory for him, played in the NFL, Hall of Famer at Florida. So he runs a tight ship. And so he was the O-line coach, and I was a tight end. So obviously you have to do some O-line work. And so like I'd split, like one day I'd go with the receivers pre-practice, one day I'd go with the offensive line. And I don't know, I had a bad day at school. I was a kid. I had a bad day at school or something, and I was just pissed off going to practice. And then I had to deal with my dad, not everybody has to deal with their dad at 3:00 at their school yelling at them like right after you get out of school. So I get out of school, I start heading to practice, and my dad's on me already, and like he's just on me, and I'm not having it. And so he's like, "You're coming over to the O line for pre-practice." And so I was just like, so I go over there, and I'm just like going through the motions, just like fooling around, like hitting the bag, not just being an idiot. And then he's like yelling at me and all this stuff. And then my buddy, who I played at Jesuit with, I was like, yo, let's try and catch everything one-handed. Like the entire practice, let's catch the ball one-handed. And so the entire practice from the very start to the very end, I only used one hand. And I caught majority of the balls. I think I only dropped 3, but one of them was like a wide open touchdown I dropped. And I was like right here. I'm just trying to like catch everything one hand. And all the coaches are yelling at me. And it was just one of those days I was being so immature. I was just being such an immature kid. And my dad knew this, that I guess he at the time wasn't the offense coordinator. He was the pass game coordinator. But if you actually knew what was going on behind the scenes, Joe Brady he ran that offense. Mm-hmm. It all went through him basically. He was there hiding behind the bushes, recording the entire thing on a camcorder. And I had no clue, 0 clue. And so at this time, practice is going on, whatever. At the end of practice, my dad was like, I hope you got your point across. Like, I hope you're happy. And I was like, whatever. And so now I obviously have to go home and see my dad at my house. And so I go home and we're at the dinner table, and my dad goes, just so you know, Joe Brady was at practice today filming the entire thing. And like, I had just like had the biggest pit in my stomach. I couldn't even eat the rest of my food. I was sick. And I was so embarrassed. And I immediately like texted the coaches at LSU, and I was like, I apologize, this, that, the other. And they were just like, we appreciate it, but we're going to go a different direction at the tight end spot.
Why did your dad tell you?
I think he wanted me to learn. At the time, it wasn't, one, I don't think he liked LSU. I don't think he wanted me going to LSU. 2, I think that he wanted me to learn a lesson. Yeah. And the lesson is you never know who's watching at any given time, and no matter what it is, work, sports, you never know who's watching. Like there's always eyes on you. And then 3, I think, like he knew that if LSU was my only scholarship, I don't think he would have let me fail. But he knew that I wasn't going to lose. I was still going to be able to go pretty much anywhere else I wanted to. Yeah. And I don't fault him at all. I honestly deserved exactly what I got. And looking back on it, I mean, you don't know. I mean, you could go a million different routes. What if I went to Alabama? What if I went to Ohio State? What if, you just never know.
Have you talked to Joe Brady since?
I have not. No, I have not.
I'll have to get his comment on the story.
I know. And it's funny because a lot of my...
He'll remember for sure.
Oh, he'll remember. A lot of my buddies play for the Bills, it was a lot. Now it's just one. Osiris Torrance, who's Cybo, who was a left guard when I was at Florida. He plays for the Bills now. And I wonder if Joe Brady does remember that. I'm sure he does, because I still have the text. I went back and checked when I told the story, like with his name is Coach DeCoster. I texted DeCoster. I didn't text Brady. Because I didn't even know who Brady was at the time. I knew who he was, but I hadn't like developed a relationship with him yet. Yeah. That's why I probably didn't notice him. Because if it would have been somebody at my high school that I would have noticed, I would have seen like, if there's always people in the background at our practices filming, especially during spring, because there's just tons of people there. Yeah. But yeah, that was probably one of the craziest recruiting stories that I had.
So then what's the story going to Florida? I mean, you didn't want to go. You had marked it off your list.
Yeah.
And then...
My thing was, I had all these scholarships, and I just didn't want to be. My dad played football at Florida. My mom played basketball at Florida. Dad was in the Hall of Fame there, and I just didn't want it to be like the shadow of my parents, or like this, like, oh, he's going to Florida because his dad went, all this other stuff. And so I basically was like, I don't want to go to Florida. I don't even want to like have that like thing. I want to go somewhere where I have my own path, my own legacy. And it just kind of, I really fell in love with Coach Mullen, because there was 2 coaches who didn't give me bullshit in recruiting, like smoke and mirrors. Tell me what I want to hear. Really 2 main coaches. One was Nick Saban, which is that story. Yeah. And then 2 was Coach Mullen. which unfortunately basically got him fired from Florida because he didn't really like to do that recruiting part of it. And the higher ups at Florida didn't like that. He wasn't like it's a kiss ass basically is what a lot of these coaches are. And the thing is, it's so misleading because you get all this love in the recruiting process and then you get there and like you're treated like just absolute scum of the earth. And it's such like a shock to your system. And for me, it wasn't a shock because Mullen was like, yeah, I really want you to come here. And, you think
that's changed now with like NIL and the ability to transfer?
A little bit. Yeah. I think that has to have because a lot of the coaches that I did have, like the coach that told me that rolled me 100 yards and told me to quit, he hasn't got a job since. It's just like this new era because the power's kind of in the kids' court. So I don't think it's like that as much. But it was when I was going to college, and it was, and a lot of the coaches, and from a lot of my buddies that went to other schools, I heard how bad it was. And even with me, like they were super, super nice in the recruiting process, obviously, but it just wasn't as much like fluff. But even then, it was still a shock to my system when I got there, and it was just like, get your ass going, Odom. And it's like it's just a shock to your system as a kid, like coming from high school. Yeah. And so Really, what I went to Ohio State and on my visit, and I didn't see the sun for 4 days, and I was like, I cannot be out here.
Yeah.
And so I canceled all my visits to like anywhere but the South. And then I just really liked Coach Mullen and my tight ends coach. And then literally the day after I signed, my tight ends coach took the head job at Howard, and I had 7 position coaches and 2 head coaches in 3.5 years at Florida.
Yeah.
So, it's just...
Did you ever play for Mullen or was it only Napier?
No, I played for Mullen my first 2 years. I backed up Kyle Pitts, which is not a bad guy to back up. I was actually on the phone with him on the way over here.
That's funny.
But
still Atlanta?
Yeah, he's still Atlanta. They just franchise tagged him. But shout out Kyle. But I played for Mullen, and I love Mullen. I think Mullen is still one of the best offensive coaches like in college football.
Is he a good job yet, or is he?
Yeah, he's the head coach at UNLV and took them to the championship for what is that? The Mountain West championship.
Yeah,
versus Boise State. And first UNLV hadn't done anything really since anything like that. They had a good season with Barry Odom, I think the year before, but he's an offensive mind. He just is not a big and I think like you said, now it's a little bit easier with just paying kids. It was such a mess, all that NIL stuff when I was there, just because, you're paying we're getting the bare minimum and we're the starters who are putting our bodies on the line, and you're paying these kids, $15,000 a month that are coming and not seeing the field, not on scout team.
What do you think, whether it was Mullins and then we'll get to Napier, let's start with Mullins, we can talk both about at the same time if you want. Yeah. Why were they not successful at Florida?
Well, Mullen was successful. If people don't realize this, but he took us to the SEC championship the year before we got fired, and we should have won. And we had a few unfortunate plays. It's football, but we really should have won against Alabama in the SEC championship the year prior. Mullen's downfall happened when he kind of didn't like the recruiting, was getting into it with media about recruiting, getting into it the administrative people at Florida about recruiting, and then just kind of, I'd say, lost the team a little bit. Not the respect of the team, but just kind of like these people weren't really bought in anymore, and it just kind of got away from him a little bit. And I think he'd say the same thing. I still talk to him every once in a while. I think he'd say the same thing. And, I think that was his downfall, and his downfall wasn't coaching related at all. It was more of just like, he really just needed like a manager, someone to manage the recruiting and manage the stuff and let him just coach.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was kind of the downfall with him. But Napier, he didn't have the mindset. He would fold anytime we got into pressure situations. It'd be 3rd and 11, and he'd call a screenplay every single time, and we just became super predictable. And there was our offense was like a bland tasting food, basically. If I'm thinking, if I'm a defensive coordinator watching our film, I could predict everything. I could predict everything that was going to happen. Just watching our film, and he was a little bit of a micromanager. He didn't let coaches coach. He wanted to have his hands on everything. He wanted to be one controlling everything: offense, defense, special teams, and And, these are grown men.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about the players, but the other coaches that are there, if you hire them, they should be good enough to do their job on their own. I'm not saying you don't bounce and have a dialogue, but the coaches would even say like, "Oh, Napier overrode it on us," or like we would come off the sidelines and like in-game adjustments, and I'd tell the tight ends coach, I'd be like, "Hey, they're doing this. Maybe we should do this." And and the tight ends coach would get on the headset and be like, "Hey, Napier, Odom says that they're doing this at the line. Like maybe we should try this." And he'd be like, "We're not changing what we're going to do for one gap." And I'm just like, all right. I mean, it was his way or the highway, basically.
Yeah. Well, you got a lot going on now. And let's back up a little bit. Like post football life. I mean, at what point did you realize this is the direction that you wanted to go in? What you have going on now, or?
So for me, I found out I had really enjoyed content. I kind of right when I got to Florida. And it was kind of like right when TikTok became a thing and all this stuff. And I would go around diamond testing my teammates, and I would, ask them who they think has the most money on the team and what they're driving, like kind of all the stuff you see now. Every single do it. Like, I don't want to be, but I feel like I was the pioneer to that. And I just enjoyed doing that. For like my first 2.5 years. And then it got to the point, and I had battled injuries during that time and all this stuff, like there's videos of me being in a sling walking around. And I was also backing up Kyle Pitts. I just knew there wasn't much. I didn't have to do much in like the football side of stuff just because it wasn't my time yet. I'm not saying that I wasn't putting the work in. I knew the offense better than anybody, or as good as anybody. I'd studied it on and off, so I was prepared whenever I did get my shot. Unfortunately, that didn't come for the first 2 years, just because, like I said, the best tight end pretty much to ever play college football was in front of me. And so I just really fell in love with content at that time. And then NIL started, so then I'm like making money off of this. And then I got served a cease and desist by Florida on my own content because there was logos of Florida in the background. I'm like, I'm making day in the life videos. And then it got my brands all mad because I was filming bad day in the life videos because my entire day revolves around me being at the facilities. And so I wasn't allowed to send me a cease and desist. And like, this was all under Napier, and like Napier didn't really care.
So why would they just tell you versus sending you a cease and desist?
Well, they didn't send me. They threatened it. They said, if you do not stop posting, we will send you a cease. Yeah. They didn't actually send, but I'm like, to me, that's like basically telling me cease and desist. Yeah. They basically gave it to verbally. They had the compliance call me and like, you can't post any more videos. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, I'm not like,
that's good for them. I feel like,
it was. Yeah. I feel like it was great, and because all these videos were doing numbers, like I would do SEC travel days, what it would look like from start to finish, and that's stuff people all want to get insight to.
Yeah.
And I had to basically stop, lost a lot of my brand deals, and then I started playing. And so I was just like, man, content is a lot for people who don't realize. Content is a lot, like the planning, the editing, the retakes, the structure that was required, the people, filmers, cameras, like, and just pre-production, post-production, no matter if it's a skit, a quick skit, a podcast, like people don't realize how much work actually goes into it. There's a few videos you can shoot, like just quick and post, but like if you're wanting to be a true content creator, it takes time, it takes effort, it takes quality, and it's hard to do when you're also trying to put all your effort into playing Division I football and making it to the NFL. And so I kind of just stopped. I was like, I'm focused. Like now this is getting real for me. I'm playing a lot. I'm playing good. Like I want to make my original dream come true of being in the NFL. And so that was about like 2.5 years that I didn't really really laid back on the content. And I had grown my pages, like my TikTok page, like 120,000 followers at that time. And I had like a great following. I just kind of stopped. And you know how it is consistency. And so that kind of died down, and I really focused on football, and then unfortunately tore my ACL, and then tore it again, and then tore my shoulder up 2 times. So I was just like battling all this stuff. And then had a big, I'd say, issue with that staff about a concussion that I suffered, and them basically saying I was faking it when I basically was knocked out versus Kentucky, on top of playing on half an ACL during that time. And so my dad was like, not my dad. I mean, this was how I felt too. Like I don't feel comfortable being under the control of these people. And so I was in a transfer, and then I went to go transfer, and then my body just never recovered. And I was just like, and that's what I was telling you earlier. Like I looked at my dad and like what his quality of life is now. And I'm like, I don't want that. I know that I have other skills that I can profit off of and make a life out of that doesn't require me not being able to pick up my kids or play golf when I'm, 50.
Yeah.
And so I was just like, my identity, I kind of learned quickly, and my parents kind of raised me to know that my identity wasn't tied into one thing. And so, I mean, is it tough? Yeah, it was hard. Like, you're the man, but like I probably had one of the craziest college.
2022 was your last year?
No. 2023 was my last year.
2023. Okay.
And I would argue I'd had probably one of the most fun college experiences. My jersey's still up in the bars in Gainesville, like, and I was just a tight end. If your jersey's up in the bar, I mean, that means you were bringing in customers. But I wouldn't trade my college experience for the world outside of maybe make a few less injuries.
Yeah.
But got to score touchdowns in the place. That's a cool picture. I scored my very first touchdown in Ben Hill. And there's a picture of me trying to score on my dad in the very same corner of the end zone that I scored on my very first touchdown when I was a little kid, and we were on the field after one of the events or something, and I tried to score on him, and it was the exact same part of the end zone that I had I'd scored up my very first touchdown on at a night game versus South Carolina.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Damn you.
Versus South Carolina. Yeah, like 42-14.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, that was. I got to my next touchdown was versus FSU in Doak Campbell. And every single one of my people that I grew up with, just being from Tampa, Florida State, you either go to one or the other if you get into them. And so, I mean, and met some great people that I still talk to now. So I had a great college experience.
And then, post more or less retirement, back to Tampa?
Yeah. So once I was like, I can't sit still. I definitely have ADHD, and my parents just never got it diagnosed. My mom says it all the time, but I'd got to be doing stuff. So when I got done, even before I got done, it's funny. Like I had, when I was like, I'm probably not going to be able to keep this up. My body's just not taking it well. I started like looking into Airbnb arbitrage and all this other stuff and just real estate, because I just know that a lot of people that I had gotten mentored by throughout all of that, like real estate was kind of the way to you get to be useful with your hands, you get to be on the move, you get to connect with people. It's kind of was like in my alleyway. And then so I started really diving into that and opened an LLC and all this stuff, which I still have. And then I'd say probably, so really it was because of, I'd say it got me back into it was Chetty.
How'd you meet him?
So we were in the Lifetime locker room. So right when I got out of college, I was like, I got to stay active. And one of my buddies in college, his dad won the 2021 US Open for pickleball, and Lifetime had just opened and they were looking for a pickleball pro. And I'm like, just something to keep me busy, keep me active. I played a few times. So I went to Atlanta. I drove to Atlanta, did a whole certification, all this stuff, got the job at Lifetime, was working at Lifetime. I was the pickleball pro there, and hadn't really started doing content yet again. And Chetty was there, and I saw him, and I was like, I know who that is. And I had
when was this?
This was beginning of last year.
Okay.
Very beginning, January.
I mean, he hadn't completely blown up at that point.
Yeah, I mean, he was still, I'd say, 700,000 followers, 600,000 followers. So he had a following, but I kind of knew of him through the Nelk Boys, which is, I had talked to some of them when they were coming to Florida one time to do a prank, and I was going to get them tickets for it. And so I talked to this guy, Jimmy Gambles, and I like talked to him a few times before. And so I was like, yo, Max, what's up? Like, and Waste Management was coming. I think I saw him post something about Waste Management. I was like, I'm going. And so we were in the locker room, and I was like, yo, like, what up? Da, da, da. Like, I'm kind of friends with Jimmy Gambles, and we haven't really met, but we've talked and all this stuff. He's like, oh, no way. I'm like, yeah, you want to Waste Management? He's like, yeah. And so we just started kind of talking. I was like, okay, well, if we're there, we could link or whatever. And so we both went to Waste Management, didn't see each other. And then I just kind of like went about it. And then we kind of just started seeing each other day by day in the gym. And then we kind of just clicked. Same interests. I saw that I was motivated just to do anything. And then I kind of saw how he was killing it with social media. And I'm just like, man, I used to be so good at that stuff.
Yeah.
Why not give it a shot again? And so then just seeing success kind of got my juices flowing for it again. And that was last year. And so I just kind of had to figure out what my niche was again, because it's different. Like with football, it was so easy. Like I was telling you, it was so easy to get content out of that. And so I basically just casted my net doing everything: golf content, reaction videos, day in the life videos, literally anything and everything I'll film, and I'll put a reel out there, and some of them do great. Some of the best travel videos, travel type of travel content. And so I literally just cast my net as wide as possible. And that kind of started last November, very beginning of November, like in middle of October. And
I like the reaction ones.
Yeah. Yeah. And
the Drake parlay one, that was funny.
Yeah. Yeah. That one was like, I saw today, and it's like, that's exactly what it looks like when you lose a parlay on somebody that you don't.
It really was.
He's like, why do you care that much? Like he didn't die. And like,
he was acting like crazy.
Yeah. But yeah. And then I was like, that happened kind of November. And then I think since November, I have like 51 million views on Instagram, which is probably more than I ever did at Florida. I had a reel go viral about Billie Eilish saying we were on stolen land. That drove a lot of engagement. That has like almost 9 million on TikTok, and basically said I was going to go move into her house because if everything's, there's nothing legal on stolen land. So I guess your house isn't legal either.
How did the Chetty Show come about?
So they had started the Chetty Show. It wasn't a Chetty Show. It was called Mint Pod. Him and this other kid named Gunner. They had done this a while back. And then we were just talking one day. I'm like, dude, like there's so many people who like would just like to hear you talk, us talk. Like we just have great like banter and we talk about stuff that's kind of unfiltered and what a lot of people won't talk about. And so they were like, let's start doing it again. And so we started off doing like Zoom. And then that's when Johnny, our filmer, was like, hey, I'm building a studio. So we did 2 episodes on Zoom. And then he was like, okay, we're going to do a studio. And then kind of just took off from there, and just being consistent. I write the scripts, and we just I'll talk about it in a group chat, and I'll just write the scripts for just to kind of tailor made it to what's going on in everyday life and stuff that people don't talk about, and current events. And it's just super easy. It flows super well. Our dynamic is just really good. On like our personalities mesh perfectly for a podcast.
So we've talked about 2 out of the 3 things that are important in your life at this point: your own personal social media brand, and then the Chetty Show, and then the third one being pickleball. Or until black people start getting involved and take over. That video was funny, dude.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. Where'd the love for pickleball come from? And I think we were DMing back and forth a couple weeks ago. You're training for the Olympics.
Yeah. So one thing about me is I get myself into the craziest side quests, which I love because like it satisfies my ADHD. But yeah, I mean, I'll start with the pickleball kind of touched on. My buddy's dad won the 2020 US Open, and I heard a Lifetime was opening, and I was like, it just gives me something to do while I figure out what I want to do long term. And I just loved it. I mean, it's super easy. I met some of the people I met, and some of the most successful people in Tampa. Now I'm working at a place called Stovall House, and the connections that I've gotten over there, I mean, insane. I mean, one of my biggest, one of my clients is, he's part owner of the Marlins. It's like just people that I
know Punit.
Yeah, Punit.
Yeah.
He's awesome.
Yeah, I'm a YPO at Punit.
Yeah, he's one of the coolest dudes I've ever met. And
he's on our hotel advisory board.
Yeah, so I actually just saw him in Paris. I was in Paris and I saw him, and I was like, but like just people like that, just super super awesome people, successful people that I want to be around. I'm a big firm believer in you are what you hang around, and it's a manifestation thing of like, I mean, it's not a coincidence. I'm hanging around all these, influencers, successful people, and my success rate has started to rise. It's just like, it's very contagious, and that's what I realized I wanted to surround myself with. And pickleball has kind of gave him that opportunity. Now, is it going to be something that I do when I'm 50, maybe not, maybe so, but I love it. And like, even though I'm doing all this stuff now, I still work, I'm not working 40 hours a week there, but I work, 10 hours there.
What are you doing at Stovall?
At Stovall,
what are you doing there?
It's pickleball,
okay.
Pickleball and padel. It's at their SH19, best club in Tampa. And yeah, I work there, and they've been super supportive of everything. I mean, anytime I need to go on content trips, they give me the time I need. Anytime I need to go train, I had to go. I was literally, my schedule before I kind of tore up my knee a little bit again, for the beginning of the year was I do. So Friday night I'd work at Stovall House. Friday night, Saturday morning, Sunday morning, Monday morning, all work at Stovall, and then I'd immediately drive Monday night down to Fort Pierce to start to train for the Olympics. So I'd train for the Olympics Monday night, Tuesday twice, Wednesday we'd have like a private, I'd have a private workout with the coach. Thursday 2 practices, Friday morning practice, then drive back and work again. I did that for 2 months. And Stovall was completely cool with it. And the Olympic thing came about. The head coach for the Olympic handball team just DM'd me on Instagram. And I saw, and it was funny because I don't check my DMs often. It was in the request box, and like some of the stuff that you're seeing there is absurd. Yeah. But I just checked it one day and I saw it, and it was just like US team handball, and I clicked on it and I was like, is this real? And so I kind of did some research, and I was like, the name matches, all this stuff. So I was like, I'll hop on it. You asked me to hop on a Zoom call, and went down there and to see if I was any good. And turns out, you're 6'6", you can throw a ball into the net.
Yeah.
It's a pretty simple game. Obviously it's a lot harder than people give it credit for. People think it's just a recess game.
Wait, you're not training for pickleball?
No, I'm not for the Olympics. No.
Oh.
Yeah. Pickleball is not in the Olympics.
Okay.
It's handball. I know it's confusing, but
I thought you were training for pickleball.
No, so
I thought it was going to be a new sport.
No. So they're not putting pickleball in this Olympics, but it's handball. And since US is hosting, they have an automatic bid. Since it's in LA, so they have to put a team together, and they've never been competitive. If you want to really see how it's supposed to look, you watch like Denmark versus like Portugal or someone, and they were making millions of dollars playing handball over there. The number one guy's making a few million. And his name's like Gidsil or something. They're insane.
It's the football of Denmark.
Yeah, but it is. I mean, there'll be 30,000 people in the stands, and it's actually an entertaining thing to watch. Really? It's a very fun thing to play. But it's like you hit people. It's super physical, and like all the guys over there from Russia and those overseas are like they're 6'8", 6'5".
Oh, I've seen this. It's like soccer with your hands.
Yes, exactly. Okay. And the ball is has a ton of glue on it.
I've seen this.
And so the US coach is trying to be competitive, and he's doing a little bit.
What's the process to make the team?
So he did like a world tryout, basically went to all the different states, anybody who's an American citizen, or all the different parts of the country, and selected like 12 guys to come train in Fort Pierce. And at your position, I think there's 3 or 4 guys at my position, and he's taking 2 or 3 to the Olympics. So you just have to be in the top 2 or 3. And
you feeling confident?
I was super, super confident until I tore up my knee again, and I tore my meniscus, which is it's like a gray area because you can kind of just like shave it and keep going. You can repair it, which takes months, or you can just like ignore it and your knee will be a little bit unstable. And then I was just like, because my ambition is like overtaking my body, and it's like, man, if I could still be doing all this running, jumping, and cutting, I wouldn't have stopped playing football.
Yeah.
But no, it's a little bit easier on your body than football is. But I was super confident the first couple months, and I really started to understand in our first tournament I had in North Carolina, and that's literally the last second of the last game. Same thing that happened to me in football. I just landed and it kind of buckled, but I'm seeing the Bucks doctor right now, and he's basically going to tell me he's got to see, because one of the things on the MRI says like there's a new tear in something else, but he thinks that it's just showing my repair from my previous surgeries. And so the good thing is it's in 2028. I have time, but it's a process, and I have like a lot of support. I mean, a lot of my clients, I did a GoFundMe for it because like the first part of it wasn't funded, you have to make it past a certain tier for you to ever have your funds all taken care of. And I had tons of people support me and all this stuff. So I want to do it and I want to see it through, but I obviously have to make sure my body can handle it first. And the Olympic coach has been super understanding of that. And doctors here are trying to get me back on track to be good to go for that.
And then outside of those three things, the pickleball, we'll match pickleball and handball, and then your personal content, Chetty Show, and all that. What else has been a focus?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny that you like walking in here, seeing all like the real estate and Airbnb and stuff, because that's kind of like my side passion, because that's what my dad does, and I've seen it for years and years, and I think it's awesome, and it's an awesome way to build equity in houses and build a portfolio and build wealth. You know, a lot of people talk about getting rich and all this stuff, but I think that stuff is a great way to build wealth. And I also like enjoy, I don't know, it's stuff that I can enjoy listening and learning about. Is stuff that I'm passionate about, and it's real estate stuff that I can listen and learn about and soak up. And so that's how I know that I'm passionate about it. Like for me, if I can't sit and listen to somebody talk about it, or sit and listen to somebody like give me advice on something without being bored or like like wanting the conversation to get on, then I know that it's not for me. But if I can listen to it and be passionate about it and you know, sit still and like be like, yeah, then I know that I'm passionate about it. And that's one of those things. So, have some a property in Scottsdale that I think trying to get under wraps for us as our first one. I opened my own LLC for it, own my own business bank account for it. And so that's kind of the next side adventure that I'm on. And
I think we're both clients of Julian Becerra. Is that right? Overtime.
Oh yeah. Julian and Jacob. Yeah, those. Yeah. So I'm part of their like affiliate program with them. So I mean, I had probably one of the craziest body. I was one person who could never listen. Whether you like it or not, in college, if you're a Division I athlete, you have to lift and you have to run a crazy amount. And I was never able to get a good physique. I always just skinny fat, no matter how much I tried. And to come to find out, I went and got tested from them, and like my testosterone was like a 168. And like just terrible, which I'm super open with about. I mean, I documented everything, my entire journey on my Instagram. And you know, that's content that did well by itself, a whole nother door.
More vulnerable, the better.
Yeah. And because people like what I've learned, especially nowadays, is people are tired of because the main big media, it's always, you never know what's true. It's all so censored. It's also so cut up. And people now, consumers of media, whether it's content, short form, long form, want it to be raw. And no, people aren't like robots. You know, people say curse words. People like, they talk about, we have different opinions. Like, and when people see that type of stuff being talked about in short form reels or in long form reels, it's like, that's what I want to hear. I want to hear like a real conversation with two people disagreeing with each other or saying something that maybe isn't the public opinion. So that's kind of my take on all that.
Yeah, dude. I take my 6-year-old and 4-year-old. We go to one South Carolina football away game a year, and last year we did Ole Miss because I've never been to Oxford, and it was a blast. Anybody that gets a chance to go to Oxford needs to go. You ever been? What's up, you guys? I wanted to introduce to you our done-for-you Airbnb investing service called BNB Turnkey that has massive tax implications. It's basically an investing service that allows you to invest in cash-flowing Airbnbs and not do any of the work. It's best explained in 3 phases. Number 1, we find, analyze, and underwrite the property. In phase 2, we handle all the interior design and construction. And then phase 3, we manage the property on the back end. The best part is most of our clients qualify for the short terminal loophole of the IRS tax code. This allows for average clients to write off over $200,000 in depreciation on their tax bill. For more information, click the link in the description to connect with our team. As always, thank you for listening, and I hope you enjoyed the rest of the episode.
I have not been to Oxford. Well, I've been to Oxford.
You played, but
I didn't. I didn't. How do I say this? I didn't go for football.
Okay.
The one year we did go was my freshman year, and I was hurt for the first part of my freshman year when we went and played them. And but I went there for a buddy's baseball game because I had a buddy who was a pitcher at Ole Miss, and I went there and hung out. Man, it's just beautiful.
Yeah,
it's beautiful. Now, the one thing I don't like is that you have to fly into Memphis and then drive for an hour and 20 minutes.
We flew we flew into Oxford, but through a charter.
Yeah,
but because it was the same thing. Like, take my kids from Tampa to Memphis and get a rental car for an hour and a half drive. Like,
it's just like brutal.
Then I'm gonna be shooting myself after that.
Yeah, I know. That's how it kind of was for me because I was hungover and I was like, oh, this is terrible.
So when I played, I was probably like a healthy 210, 220, and then just whatever excuse you want to have the past 10 years. Halloween was that weekend last year, and I ballooned up like 250 pounds. Oh. And I got back, and I was like, all right, I got to do something. And I had just had Julian on the podcast, and got hooked up with him. I'm down 35 pounds. Yeah. And feel great.
It's great. I mean, I feel the best I've ever felt. I look the best by far.
What are you taking?
I'm right now. I'm doing 3 weeks off, 1 week on Retta right now because I was doing Retta every week. And I went from 260 to 219. And right now I'm right in between 219 and 223. And I don't really want to get below that. I think my frame holds 220 perfectly. Yeah. And so I'm doing 3 weeks on, 1 week off, 3 weeks off, 1 week on. And then I'm also on enclomiphene, which is like a natural testosterone booster without killing your natural production of it. Mm-hmm. It's just like a receptor blocker instead of like when you inject testosterone, your body naturally stops producing it because it's getting it from somewhere else. So I didn't want to do that to my body at a young age. So it's maybe a little less effective, but not for me. I mean, and a big thing for me is I did all that. And then I also just started eating better. I started fasting till noon. I prioritizing my macros and like, honestly, it's not that hard to be healthy. I still go out and have a bad meal every once in a while. I still go out and drink with my buddies on Saturday night. But it's just like in moderation. That was my biggest thing is like, you can't really have the Tuesday, Wednesday nights where you're just going out and,
I think with me, it helped just like a little jump start.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It was something that so what happens is, people start working out and they get these crazy goals. And this is just from personal experience. I mean, I'm not an expert on this, but how I personally felt is like you start working out and you're working for 2, 3, 4 weeks working out hard. Also, if you don't see any progress and it's demoralizing. And then I got on the Retta and the stuff they put me on and taking like 8 pills a day. Which is just the enclomiphene and then 2 magnesium pills, vitamin D, zinc, fish oil, creatine, like just natural supplements. Yeah. And, within 3 or 4 weeks, I started to see progress. Mm-hmm. And I was like, once you see that progress, it's like, holy, like
I saw it so fast.
Then it was addicting. Yeah. It's like an addictive thing. It's like, oh my, and then it's like, I have my lock screen is just my workout plan. It's like, get into the gym, go do it, knock it out. It takes 45 minutes if you want to.
So that lifetime working out?
Yeah, lifetime. And it's also so much, I just felt so much better. My sleep was the biggest thing. I had the biggest issue sleeping. Mm-hmm. I could not sleep for anything because I would literally lay down and think about the world's problems and how I'm going to solve them. Like it literally was it's funny to like talk about, but it's the most like frustrating thing ever. I'd be so tired. I'd lay down and my brain would just start like, I need to do this. I need to do this. I need to film this. I need to start this business. Like my brain wouldn't stop and I could not sleep. I started taking zinc and all this other stuff and on the daily basis. And now I'm like, I can just knock out and I wear a Whoop on my arm every single day to track my recovery. And, it's fun when you get into that rhythm of healthy living, but still like, I'm not over here eating grass and carrots. I'm still living a normal, attainable lifestyle, which is the biggest thing. And that was my whole thing doing was like, I want to do stuff. I want to change my body, but not change my lifestyle to a lifestyle that is unattainable. Yeah. That it's unattainable to think you're going to eat salads and drink water every single meal for every single day. I mean, it's just, it's not a life that I think many people can live, especially me.
here we are, April 2026. Like, what do you feel like the rest of this year from a focus standpoint looks like for you?
So I have a whiteboard in my room with all my goals, and my goals, I'll talk about a few. It was 100K on Instagram by the end of the year.
You're at 40-ish, 50-ish
I'm
now?
right at 40, I think 35, somewhere around there. So
you know exactly how many.
yeah, I think it's 31.6. But yeah, so that's the goal. That's one of my big goals. There's 100K by the end of the year for Instagram. I think the goal under that on my whiteboard, I'm picturing it, is to finish the Bible. I'm reading the Bible in 365 days. And so it's actually the easiest thing ever, and it's good. It's on the Bible app, and you just go in and you press play, and it has a chapter, like it has however many chapters you need to read, and it'll read them for you, and then it has like a breakdown after. So that's another one of my big goals. But getting my first rental property is on there. And then I'm trying to think. Those are kind of like my biggest. Oh, and then monetization, to start monetizing my content a little bit better, which is good. I just signed with an agency actually yesterday.
Nice.
Which is
they'll help you monetize, or
yeah. So it's like when I was really monetizing in college was with my agency, and then obviously when I stopped creating content, stopped the agency. Because the issue is now I get so many brand deals, but 50% are scams.
Yeah.
I've been scammed before. I've lost all my accounts before, and literally it was like, luckily my dad knew the Secretary of State. So I literally had because what they were doing is they were scamming other people through my account with like fake PS5s and taking all my friends' money. And so I'm like, Dad, I need any favors that you have, or any people that you know, I need you to call them in. And they got my accounts back. So now I was like, I don't click any links. I don't respond to anything. And, I see these emails coming up, and I'm like, it's like $1,000 for like $1,500 for a sound promo on TikTok. And I'm like, I know these are real. I used to do them, but I just sketchy to me. Yeah. So it's good to have an agency to kind of wean through all that stuff, and they're able to give you legit deals. So, that's kind of my big goals for the year.
You and I have very extreme focus and belief in our faith. Like, how has that played into the hard parts in life? I would say, whether it's from childhood or from college, from high school, or from recently. Yeah. How have you leaned on that?
I think for me, I grew up in a house that was built around faith and the Bible and God and all that stuff. But
Jesuit Catholic?
Yeah, it's Catholic. Yeah. I'm Christian. I went to a Catholic school. I'm Southern Baptist Christian, but I believe in a majority of the Catholic teachings and all that stuff. But it was good to be in a school where at least there's a similar overlap of beliefs. Obviously believe that you pray more to a God than to a pastor. Those are my personal beliefs. But anyways, it was still a great school. I love Jesuit. But for me, I grew up in a house where it was a normal thing. But sometimes I think that's almost a disadvantage. It's a good advantage you have to see, but it's a disadvantage because you kind of have this kind of view that it's not forced on you, but it's not really your relationship. And really, when I find my faith started helping me was when I kind of had it like by myself, like when I started praying every single day and getting into the Bible. And now that I'm reading the Bible, actually, I'm just like, some of the stuff I had no idea about. Like, and I grew up going to church and went to Christian schools all my life. And it's just like, until you really take it serious for yourself. And also there's a lot more peace. Cause there's been period of time in my life where I've really just not been in the word, or like in having just being as faithful as I should be. But the times that, and I kind of feel it, I just feel like nothing is satisfying. Nothing is like good enough. And especially I think what kind of drove me recently to get really back into it was like, I was getting that feeling of like, I was all over the place doing all these different things, going on all these trips, going like meeting all these people. I'm like, still nothing is like, it's like nothing is giving me satisfaction. Yeah. And really now, like just reading the Bible is just like
Holy Spirit will chase you down.
Yeah. It's crazy. And it's like, man, like you don't realize how finite. That's a good vocabulary word. Is your time is here.
Smarter than you look.
Yeah, exactly. I went to Jesuit. I know I had to still pass the classes. But yeah, your time here is so finite, and the stuff that we do is so like and meaningless in the grand scheme of things. Now I want to leave a impact. And I guess my prayers is like, I have this desire to be great and like leave a lasting impact. But it's like, how do you get there? And that was such like a big burden for me. Like, I know that I want something big, but it's like really what I'm learning is just like take every day on by day, and just you got to trust.
I think the best way it's helped me is like just from true fulfillment. Where like, I mean, I've chased everything under the sun, right? And then, married an amazing wife, and then I have amazing kids and a third on the way. And by no means that that brings me the most happiness that this earthly world has to offer.
Right.
But it doesn't, like, I'm never, like, even vice versa, I'm never going to completely fulfill my wife.
Correct.
That's completely impossible. Now I can be the best husband ever and like that's ever walked this earth, and I'm never going to completely fulfill her.
Right.
Like only Jesus can do that.
Right.
And so that's been helpful for me, just to be like, especially lately, I kind of probably gotten like a little rut where it's just like, just focus so much on the success of the business. I started noticing that my emotional well-being was in our sales numbers.
Yeah. That's exactly how it's like the same thing with me. Is like my happiness would be dictated on if I got this amount of followers in a day, or I got this amount of engagement, or it's just, it's honestly such an exhausting way to live.
Yeah. And so, I just kind of got just back focused on him, and it's just like and control what I can control. Yeah. I can't control the sales numbers on a day-to-day perspective. I mean, I can, but not them, really it's just effort and creativity, and I control that. That's all I can do.
It's
do my best, prepare.
Just like God says, you do everything you can to the best ability. And then but like you said, I feel like there's a lot of probably me and what you see and what your younger self was. And even now it's like kind of same minded people of like, I want it. Yeah. Don't know exactly what it is, but I would do anything to get there, but not to sacrifice my inner peace, because every time I have attained a goal that has been high, I pass that goal and it's immediately gone, and now there's something else.
Yeah, I think people eventually realize that. They chase the next investment, they chase the next vacation, they chase the next high. Yeah, and they get there.
And then it's just the next one.
Yeah.
And I think I'm very fortunate to have gone through a lot of stuff at a young age. Done, I'd say, a lot more than the average adult has done in their lifetime. Blessed to have done it, but it also is like I think about like what is the ultimate like satisfaction. You realize there's nothing. Everything you look forward to, there's always gonna be something else to look forward to. Every goal you set, there's always gonna be a different goal when you reach that goal. And I've realized that over, my entire, I look back sometimes at my recruiting process and all this stuff, and man, I overlooked high school. I was so excited to go to college, and not realizing that high school was some of the most easiest fun times I'd ever have. And everyone was like, I'm like, I'm ready to go to college. I want to leave. I want to go. I'm ready to go play football in college. I'm like, my mind was so far ahead. I just realized, like, man, if I have one thing that it's not like ending my football career early. I wish I would have enjoyed high school more.
Bro, I say all the time, even playing in baseball in the SEC, if I could go back and play one more game, is Friday Night Lights.
Yes.
Bro, the most fun.
We go to Brick House after the game with my entire family and the coaches. And it's like, I really was, and I think I was another part, like I just was so focused on what the next thing was. And I think has been a big struggle in my life, which is what we're talking about now. And I think that's where my faith is kind of like now really helped me realize, like, it's never going to be whatever I'm looking forward to next is not going to fulfill what I think it's going to fulfill. And it's hard because even now, like me saying that, it's like, I still want to reach 100K. I still want to start monetizing. I still want to like get my first Airbnb. Yeah. I still want to I still want those things. Yeah. So, and it's hard to put those earthly desires away, but you just have to realize that, when you get to that, it will fulfill you for a day or two, or that vacation will fulfill you for a week when you're over in Europe. But like, if you come back and it's like, all right, what's next?
our pastor best put it. I was talking. He was on the podcast. We got a Harborside and Safety Harbor, and he was like, "Hey, like being like wanting to make money and be successful. That's all okay. He's like, it's not about how much money you make. It's about how you steward it, and just like taking the gifts that God's given you and producing the results. But then also, okay, you know, are you giving back in the right ways and putting the money where it needs to be, or are you going and blowing it on Lambos and on crazy stuff? And so, the thought I just had just about like living in the moment, dude. It was funny, not funny, I guess, but I get, whether it's Instagram, whatever, those cheesy like you probably don't get them. It's probably my algorithm, not yours, but there's like cheesy little posts about like your kids are growing up and you're gonna miss their time, right?
Yeah,
like,
so mine are like a little bit different. It's literally like the nostalgia videos. Like you realize, like when it's like the sad music and it's like you realize you'll never get this back again. And it's like all the stuff I had in middle school and all this stuff. But like,
so this morning, my wife takes my oldest son to reading, like tutoring for a 6-year-old. I don't know how much tutoring they're doing. But so it's just me and my 4-year-old, and I'm like, read one of those sappy little posts. So I'm like, oh, let me go lay with my kid, right?
Yeah.
So I just like, he's on the couch eating bacon, watching Peppa Pig, and I just lay my head on his lap. And he just like starts just rubbing my head. Dude, I like lost it.
Yeah.
I'm like crying on the couch. It's like 7:30 in the morning.
No, I mean, it's like, I obviously I don't have that experience with my own kid. I mean, I obviously want to be a father one day, but I just can't imagine, just thinking from that perspective of like family in general. Like I sometimes, that's another thing. I was like, I'm so on the go and I see my family way less than I should have. And I'm always in and out. And it's like you talk about, it's like, I know those posts are the sad. They know what they're doing with those posts, but it's like, you look at it and it's real. It's it's like that time will never come back, and at the end of the day, that's what matters most is like, I mean, that's basically what it is. I know you going on vacation by yourself with no friends or family, that's not very fun, hanging out by yourself without friends or family, think about all these things that like you said, I'm monetary value and all this different stuff. Yeah, it can be a great tool for you and your family and all this stuff. And but you got to realize that none of that stuff would be fun, or all the stuff that you want to attain without family and friends around is kind of just like, what's the point?
I saw another stat the other day. I was talking about, I think like life expectancy in the U.S. for males is like 76 or something. So I started thinking, it's like, dang, like, I'm 33, so in 5 years I'm going to be 38, which is like halfway of my life.
Right. And it's like, dude, I still think I'm like 18.
Dude, I feel like I'm still in high school.
Yeah. I'm like, when you ask me, like, how old are you? I'm like 24, I think. It's like, I genuinely will forget my age sometimes because I'm like, I'm still like, I go get a beer and I'm like nervous about my ID. And I'm just like, I'm 24 years old. It's weird. It's crazy how fast.
I feel like I feel young. And then one of my employees the other day, he was like, hey, if you don't mind me asking, how old are you? And I was like, how do you think I am? He said, 40? I'm like, 40? Damn, dude.
Yeah, no, I'm just like, it's crazy.
So let's start closing out.
Yeah.
I got 2 more questions. We'll end with the question I always end on. But then my second favorite story I want you to retell if you don't mind. So funny. I thought it was hilarious, just like you did, but your Nick Saban story.
Yeah. And this is a story for all the people that don't think it's real. How could I make something up like this? This is like the most random story. And, I was going through comments. It was my first YouTube video ever posted. I got like 10,000 views, and like it went viral on all platforms. And like a lot of comments are like, this guy's just making it up. I'm like, ask my grandpa, ask my dad. They were all in the room with me. Ask Nick Saban. I guarantee you he remembers this.
I'm going to make it the rest of this year's priority is to try and get a comment from Nick Saban and Joe Brady on these stories.
I would love that. If they were, it's hard for me to think that they wouldn't remember these. But then again, you also realize how many people they interact with.
But not these crazy stories.
I want to say that it's like, there's not as many crazy stories as this, but like for these 2 things that happened to me, I don't know, but you can fact check me. This happened. But so we were going to Alabama and we had our full tour. So like for a visit, when you want to visit, basically the last thing you do is always talk to the head coach. If you're a actual recruit that they want, If that makes sense. You know, they sometimes have like junior days where anybody can come, but like, so we get to Alabama. This is right, like a couple weeks after I got a scholarship from them. And I think his name is Jeff Banks. Was who gave me the scholarship. I think he's the OC at Tennessee or somewhere. I don't know. And so I got my, so Jeff Banks is who offered me. So I go to Alabama for this visit, and we're going through the whole tour. We meet the strength coach. I think the time was Scott Cochran.
Yeah. Crazy guy.
Yeah, sounds like this. Yeah, him.
Has some opioid addiction.
Yeah, he had the opioid addiction. Crazy. So we're going through all the facilities, all this stuff. Seeing the school, and you know, you get pulled. So when you come, they have these big recruiting days, and then you get pulled. If you're like an elite level recruit, they'll pull you, and they'll have like a personal person on a golf cart basically take you everywhere. And so whatever, we go everywhere, and then we go up to this waiting room area, and it's like the entire time the vibe was like super relaxed and funny, and everyone's joking, all this stuff. And then you go up to this like room, and you can immediately tell that, like, just by the way in the room, you can tell that Nick Saban's presence is somewhere in here, because it's like dead silent. Like you could hear a cricket fart. Like I don't know. It's like the most eeriest feeling. So we walk up there, and like I immediately feel.
Let's make sure we clip that.
Yeah.
The cricket fart.
I feel the mood change. And so I'm like, okay, we're definitely about to go meet Nick Saban. And so it's me, my dad, my grandpa, and we're sitting there, and Nick Saban calls us in, and I don't remember much about what he was talking. He was just kind of like, hey, I remember he started talking all this stuff, asking about how the day was, how he liked it. You know, his office is kind of set up where it's like, it was his big glass table with all his rings inside the table. And then there's a couch like right here where me and my dad were sitting on. And then there's a chair right here where my grandpa was sitting on, and an empty chair right there. And then Nick Saban was sitting in one of the chairs in front of us, in front of this table. And so he's like, you know, his kind of pitch before the story happened was like, we really like you to come to Alabama. We think you'd be a great fit in our offense. What we're looking for and all this stuff. But, you know, if you don't want to come here, like, we don't need you. We can find somebody else. Basically, it was like, we want you, but we don't need you.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, yeah, coach. Well, thanks for having me, all this stuff. And my grandpa had told me the night before, or that day, that the night before, he had a dream that Nick Saban picked his boat up by a crane, set it on fire, and like watched it burn and then drop it because I didn't go to Alabama. And so my grandpa is hilarious. It might be one of the most funniest individuals. Like probably like one of my closest friends. Like we golf every single day, or not every single day, but a couple times a week. Feels like every single day. But anyways, he's one of the most funniest people ever, and will say whatever's on his mind. So I'm like, he's like, would you get mad at me if I told Nick Saban the story? And I was like, no, that would be hilarious. And so like we're getting ready to leave the office, and my grandpa's like, Coach Saban, I gotta tell you this story I had. So like last night I had a dream that Jonathan didn't come to Alabama, and so you drove, and I have a boat in St. Pete, and you drove to my boat and picked it up with a crane and set it on fire and had me watch it burn, and then dropped it from the crane. And I'm sitting there, like my dad is sitting there, and Nick Saban's like facial expression doesn't change, and he just goes, we don't do that at Alabama. Like just like that. Like didn't laugh. Oh, and then he goes, because after my dad saw the one I posted, he said, I forgot to mention something in the last story that I'll mention now. He goes, I like boats. We won't do that at Alabama. Just like that. Didn't laugh. He just said he likes boats and he wouldn't do that at Alabama. Yeah. And we were just kind of sitting there, and we were just like, all right. And he was like, all right, you guys have a good day. And we just like walked out. That's how it ended.
That's hilarious.
And I was just like,
didn't see him since.
Didn't see him since, and talked to him after that.
Why didn't you go to Alabama?
I don't know. I just didn't get the vibe.
Yeah.
It felt very, I mean, it basically felt probably how it was. It felt like there was very military.
Yeah.
Like extremely military. You were there as a pawn, and if you made your way, you made your way. Now you probably made your way to the NFL, but you know, I think they kind of knew exactly who I was going to be, and they knew that I'd probably play my sophomore. I was a late developer. Like, I didn't get scholarships my freshman and sophomore year of high school, because people wanted to offer me as a left tackle. And I told my dad and I told my parents, I said, I will not play left tackle in college. And so I was chubby and like everyone, I was still growing and like I was super goofy. And so every college waited. And I told Jeff Banks, who came, they all were asking me, Jeff Banks, Larry Scott, all these coaches that were kind of the recruiting coordinators in our area. I told them all, I said, they asked me like, we'll offer you if you are interested in playing left tackle my freshman, sophomore year. And I said, no, I'm only playing tight end. And that's why it took me to my junior year to get offers. And so I think they knew I was still such a late developer. I think they knew I wasn't really going to come in and play my freshman year and all this stuff. So I just, didn't get the vibe and ultimately like felt like I didn't really want to leave Florida.
Yeah.
Didn't want to go to Miami because I don't think that culture would have fit me, would have been.
I can see the Latina in you.
Yeah. It just would have been, wouldn't have been, what's the word? Productive for me. Yeah. I would have probably enjoyed the nightlife a little bit more than I should have if I was down there. And then
a little better than Gainesville.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I couldn't go to Florida State because
your dad.
Yeah. It's just like, if I go to Florida State, like that's basically like you're getting shunned out of the family. Yeah. And then, USF and the time wasn't good. And so I was like, I'll just go to Florida.
That's awesome. Well, let's end with this. I think you have a unique perspective like on this question that no one's really had. Cause I mean, you've been around such different people that have been successful, whether it's in the football realm, the pickleball, handball realm, the content creation realm, everything that you've kind of been through in life. But with the podcast being on Successful DNA, like whether it's yourself or people you've been around, Kyle Pitts, your dad, anybody, like what are like 2 or 3 non-negotiables that have to be inside of someone to be successful?
I say the first one is desire. I think that people, especially nowadays, there's so much like fluff that is like, you see all these people posting this stuff like buy my course and get rich overnight, all this stuff. And it's like, that's not how it works. I know that's not how it works. Maybe you get lucky in crypto or something like that, but like the main thing is you got to want it for yourself and you got to be, I guess they kind of tie together, is you got to be willing to put the effort in. I'd say those tied together is like probably the biggest. Second, at least for me, is like, and what I've seen is like, you got to be able to communicate with people. You got to be likable. From really what I've learned, just like being a sponge to a lot of successful people that I've talked to, is that if someone doesn't like you, they're not going to do business with you. Yeah. And if you're not a likable person,
or play you if they're your position coach.
Yeah, exactly. Or play. It's just like, just don't be a piece of shit.
Yeah. It's
pretty simple. I mean, like, be able to, if you don't know something, that's okay. Ask questions, and you just be a sponge to these people that are in areas that you want to go. And that kind of leads into my third, I'd say, piece of advice. And by no means am I where I want to be yet, but I think I've set myself up in a pretty good spot to have the guidance to get me to where I want to go. I'd say the third thing is like to put yourself in the right groups of people. The term, I know it's cliche, but who you hang around is, I've experienced that over and over and over and over and over and over and over again, good and bad.
The best way I've heard that put is the company you keep is the legacy you seek.
100%.
Yeah.
And I've experienced both ends of that. I've experienced it on the bad end, into high school, early college, just when I kind of hung around some not great people. And then I experienced on the good end when I found a great group of people. And
Steven Garcia.
Yeah.
Great guy.
Yeah. Great guy. Amazing dude. But like
high character,
a great high character guy. But I, it's real, you beat all these people that, and that's why I really love my job at like SH19 Stillhouse, because like I see all these people and, but I'm not going to say it. There's some people who are super successful that aren't the nicest people in the world, and it's just like, the way that I think is the best way to do it.
I mean, it's possible. I think you have a better chance if you're like nice or something.
Yeah. Well, a lot of those people, and this is just me just talking, is I've realized they usually come from it.
Yeah.
They're more of like kind of generation. People that I've met that have got it out of the mud and like had to start from nowhere and built it themselves, they don't act like that.
Yeah.
They're because they know what it's like to be down and be in those times of like, of anxiety and not knowing what's next. And, all the spots that you're going to go through as somebody who's trying to make something for themselves down the line.
Well, bro, thanks for coming, dude.
Yeah, dude.
That was a blast.
Yeah, it was
Glad we
great.
made it work out.
Yeah, absolutely. Finally.
Plug in here. Where can people? Where do you want people to go if they want to get more of you?
My Instagram, Odom_87, TikTok, Jonathan Odom, and then those have links that'll take you anywhere that I go.
Cool. Well, we'll have to come back on after you win the Olympics.
Yeah, that would be awesome. That would be a great podcast.
All right, cool. Thanks, bro.
Peace.